Justin Harnish, Oregon's top producing broker for the past 10 years, teaches us these 5 things and more. Number 1, work-life balance. Number 2, his market predictions. Number 3, what numbers he looks at and how he separates himself through the numbers. Number 4, finding mentorship. And number 5, how to think bigger. You're going to love this episode. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart. Thrilled today to bring you Oregon's top producing broker for the past 10 years straight. There's a lot you can learn from a guy who's done that, and we're going to do just that today. Let me remind you that within the Think Bigger Real Estate Facebook page, we take snippets of each show and we put them there so you can digest these long-form interviews in a way that makes it easy for you to do with everything that you have going on. So be sure, if you're not yet a member of that group, to go be a member of that group. Again, I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Justin Harnish. Super grateful that you agreed to come on and share your wisdom with us, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about some stuff that maybe you don't get asked very often. Now I promise this would all be softballs. Just kidding. To some degree. So you're a family man, right? And I'm sure people usually think of Justin Harnish, the businessman, Justin Harnish, the real estate agent, right? That's kind of how you're known. Your signs are up all over the place in front of some of the most beautiful properties in Oregon. Yet I don't know how often, at least probably in formats like this, you get asked about Justin Harnish, the family man, right? I'd love to hear this. You are a proud dad, husband. Talk to us about kind of what lights you up when it comes to being a dad. Like, what's your favorite part about being a dad?
Well, it started when the kids were little, when you'd come home from a long day and they'd come bolting towards the door and, dad, that was the sort of the initial rush, right? I mean, other than having babies and the first time you see them, but, so now they're 10 and 12 and they don't move when I walk in the door and I hear, "Hey, Dad," and that's about it. So the rush is not as much of a rush anymore, but it's a rush because I'm excited to see him. But I love my kids. I love my family. I try to keep the two separate. I know there's a lot of people who use social media platforms and they show a lot of their family and a lot of their personal life. I don't do that. So I try to really keep the two separate. I mean, people around me know my family, and I don't try to hide my family from my clients, but I certainly don't use that as a business platform.
Yeah, fair enough. Has that helped you to keep work-life balance? I think that's one of the questions that had come in from the audience. In fact, I would invite anybody that's actually watching this live to put post your questions out there. As long as they're reasonable questions, we'll be sure to answer them. But we'd love to. I know. One of the questions came back is, how do you doing, $100+ million a year in business with a very small team, right? It's an enormous amount of work. It's an enormous amount of real estate that's being done. How do you stay married? How do you continue to be a great dad, be super involved in the community? What does that look like when you get home for the day? How do you separate that? Because again, real estate doesn't stay within the confines of a 8-to-5 job, right? So talk to us a little bit about how you've managed that.
Well, I'll answer that for me, and then you can call my wife and you can ask her that. 2020, there is no balance. So outside of 2020, the most imbalanced time of ever, like I said, I separate it. When I come home, my wife knows I don't want to talk about my day because I don't want to relive it, and I know what I did. I know what's going on. I know what I can do. I know that my phone at 6 o'clock starts ringing more than it did from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So it's just sort of getting used to that pattern of how real estate works. I mean, I get it when someone drives home from work every day in a normal year, at 5 o'clock, 5:30, they drive past that sign as they drive up their driveway and they think, what's he doing for me? So they get home at 6 o'clock and they start pinging me what's going on. So it is a constant state of communication so that you can get ahead of that late afternoon, evening communication. But really the balance comes from just having the ability to shut it off. It's like going out and playing a game of golf. If I take my phone, if I leave my phone in my bag, I'm a horrible golfer. Everybody out there is watching this knows I'm a horrible golfer. But if I stick my ball in my phone in my bag, I will have a decent round of golf. If I put my phone in the cart and I'm checking it in between every shot, I'll have a horrible round of golf. So 99% of the time, I have a horrible round of golf because I leave it in the cart. So it's the same thing at home. I mean, it's walking in the door, having the ability to set it down for an hour or 2 hours, and that's a very hard thing to do. But just getting this out of your life for a certain amount of time, and having presence for the rest of the family. And again, I am no saint when it comes to that, because I work 24/7. But I spend a lot of time with my kids as much as I can. I mean, this again, 2020 has been a weird time, and the kids are sitting outside the door listening to me right now. But I coach 2 soccer teams twice a week, and that's a lot of really good time with the kids. We play golf, we go boating. This winter we'll hang out, we'll ski a bit and do things and get away. It's forced time, which is a sad thing to say. You have to force yourself away from business in order to have a balanced life. It should be the other way. You have to force yourself into business in order to have a balanced life. But this business never sleeps. So I think it's just a discipline. And in those busy times, I mean, like this year, and the absorption during the summer, and the things that happened this year, that got imbalanced too, and so that's why I said the balance of 2020 is very different than the rest of the years.
I want to extract a couple of things that you said there that you try and anticipate even the calls that are going to happen, and you communicate in advance, right? A lot of times I think communication comes after hours when maybe we haven't been proactive during business hours, right? And kind of what I heard you say is like proactively reach out and communicate with people. That way that their concern, their concerns are resolved prior to it getting into the evening hours. And that doesn't always take care of all the concerns, right? But I think that there's great wisdom there. And again, I would encourage everybody that's listening here, if you have a hard time with work-life balance, guess what? That's all of us. But the reality is nobody, at least in Oregon, is doing more business than this guy right here. So there's something that we can learn from him. If he's able to do some of these things, I think we can probably all do a little, do better at it as well. And I think I remember back to my days when I was building homes, if I didn't proactively communicate with people at the end of every day, I could just plan on my evenings and weekends being filled with these custom home clients calling, wanting me to come out and walk through the home. And I just learned by, kind of by the school of hard knocks, that if I didn't proactively reach out and say, hey, here's what's happened, and here's what's going to happen next, that they were going to be asking for it all weekend. So I love the fact that you said that. Also very interesting, I think, is you call it kind of this forced commitment to the family, but that's a beautiful thing. It's the same reason why people, I think, they set up automatic withdrawals out of their checking account into savings, right? Because by default, it doesn't happen. And what you've done is you've structured certain activities, whether it be boating, whether it be, coaching 2 soccer teams, that gives the assurity that you're going to be committed at that time. I think it's awesome. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's fantastic.
Well, and for me, the other thing is exercise. I get up in the morning, I don't know, 3 to 4 days a week, and just do 30 to 45 minutes of workout. And then if I don't do it in the morning, then I try and get it in the afternoon. And there's no way I'm going to get 7 days a week, but I try to do 5. And that really just settles my mind, settles my body, settles my aggressiveness just towards the day. I can walk in with a much more open mind, much more calm demeanor. And I just sort of get that night's anxiety out of the way when I wake up, because in the middle of the night, I'm constantly waking up with things spinning in my mind, oh, I got to show somebody this or this, or I just thought of this. And if I get up and jump on the Peloton for 30 minutes, it's like, oh, okay. It's like a data dump. I could just jump into my day or walk into my day rather than run into it.
Yeah, great stuff. All right, man, let's get into business. Now, I appreciate you kind of sharing that again. As part of the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, we like to encourage people to think bigger than real estate, right? That it's not all about the industry in which we get to work, but it's like that obviously funds the life that we actually want to have. So thanks for answering those questions. Let's talk a little bit about, the fact that you've been for the past 10 years, right? Highest producing broker in Portland. What kind of pressure is there on you from that? Do you get haters? Do you get people who do you get a certain kind of pressure or stuff that maybe people can't see, kind of stuff behind the surface? That it seems fun to be, kind of hold that title. Not that it's a title, but what's the downside of that? Like, is there a downside? Do you feel this kind of pressure, this target on your back at all?
Well, I think there's always a target on your back because you have competition around you, right? We all compete within our geographical area pretty much, right? And so, you have 3 or 4 competitors who you know you're going to be going up against every, for certain listings or for certain things. And so there is a target there. People love to say certain things about me, which I take as a compliment, because if they're talking about me, then they're talking about me. But if the thing is that I pride myself on is the majority of the things that they're saying about me aren't really that negative. They say he's too busy. Okay, that's great. I'd rather be too busy than not, right? And busy people get things done. So he has too many listings. Well, if you control the inventory, you can control, a lot of things around you. So, there's a lot of things that I don't, the other day I was thinking, what does it mean to have this title, as you say? It's not a title, but to have it 10 years straight, it really doesn't mean anything, right? It's nothing. It's nobody gives you an award. Nobody gives you a bonus. Nobody gives you anything. It's really just a yearly thing that you can say, hey, great, I had a good year. Well, I had a good year 10 years in a row. I had a better year than everybody else. But there's a lot of people out there selling a lot of real estate. I saw a woman that I know who just started selling real estate. She was a client of mine. I looked at her numbers. She's going to do 15, 16 million this year. Her name's Grace Waddell with Hassan Company. I was so proud of her for doing that amount of money in a short amount of time. I need to call her. But there's, other people that are having really incredible years and putting together year after year, really incredible years. Rick Brainerd's having a heck of a time, and that's the kind of thing I look at and I think, God, that's so cool. We're all having success. And, my success has been consistent, and thank God this year turned around the way that it did. But you just kind of look at it and you go, at the end of the day, who cares who's number one? Who cares? Yeah, it's fun to say, and we use it as a marketing tool, but we're all successful, and we're successful because of who we are and what we do, right? And that's the cool thing, is there's a lot of business to go around. Everybody's got a lot of business. If we can consistently sell 130 to 150 million dollars a year, and Rick can sell 90 to 100 million dollars a year, and XYZ can do 30, 40. I'm looking at some of the numbers of these people. That means there is so much business out there, and people are cashing in. And I think it's a really cool thing to watch everybody around you succeed.
I love that. It's really an abundance mentality, isn't it? When you can be excited for the people around you, and realize, like, we're living in a great time when it comes to the real estate market. We hope that this continues. And I think with the demand that's in the Portland area for people moving here, that we're hopefully that will continue. Let's talk a little bit about the market. It's probably a good segue. We've all had a pretty good run here for the past, 10 years or so. What would you say, what would be your predictions moving forward?
That's a tough one because of where we are and what, at the beginning of every election year, I tell my clients, I tell my team, this is going to be a weird year. Never did I think this would be this weird, right?
It's a bit of an understatement this year.
Yeah. So it's hard to, and election years typically are, but this year every cycle is thrown out the window because of coronavirus and everything that happens. So there is no trend, there is no cycle, there is nothing but chaos and a mass absorption and all of that stuff. You can't dictate trends or cycles based on school starting, based on spring break, based on holidays. That's all out the window, right? So, but if you look at the market as a whole, what I've been told and what experts are telling me is that rates are not supposed to go down until 2023. I believe that a lot of this market, at the beginning of the loosening of lockdown, it was not a rate-driven market. It was a emotional-driven market. Then it became a rate-driven market, tied in with the emotional market, right? People getting out of cities, getting out of density, wanting more space, plus the ability to buy more. So you had this really, if we go back to the beginning of how COVID, just how the lockdown started, it really was it was one of the weirdest things that I've ever seen, because the trends before COVID, or before lockdown, I should say, were going down. Everybody wanted smaller. After 60 days, everybody wants bigger. Everybody wants space. Everybody wants more. And it starts with 1,000 square foot condo who goes 2,500 square foot. The 2,500 square foot goes to 5. The 5,000 goes out to acreage and 10,000 square feet. So everything flips in a matter of 60 days. Yeah. Then and that absorption during that period of time, there was no travel, right? There was nobody coming here. That was all inner market. So we had this inner market absorption, inner market demand, where everybody was just taking what was there. And I was sitting there thinking, how can this little market absorb so much within itself? Then all of a sudden, later on the summer, you start to get people coming in from out of town, right? And all of a sudden, the people are starting to come in from out of town. So that demand is now supplemented by regular demand, relocation demand, which we usually see around May. This year showed up around July. And you look at that and you go, okay, that's trending now. And then Multnomah County, with the taxation and the unrest in Multnomah County, us in Clackamas County have an influx of demand coming out of Multnomah County. So we have these crazy trends and cycles within our little marketplace that has not been supplemented by a big hiring by Nike or a big, things that didn't happen, the opposite happened. So within this market in just 2020, if you really dissect what was happening and how it happened, it's mind-blowing, right? And then, but now we have a lot of, and I've said this lately, there's a lot of generational wealth. I've never seen more generational wealth in the Portland area, metro area, leave Oregon for reasons, political reasons. And then I've never seen more wealthier come in to replace them.
Really?
And that's that .com money, the Silicon Valley money, and all of these people, this youth with money, younger people coming in and replacing them, spending I got like 3 calls in 1 week from people in the Bay Area saying, hey, you got anything coming up to 5 million? You don't have 3 $5 million buyers in a calendar year. That was in a week, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just this really interesting, California, and if you read the news, if certain person gets elected and the governor and he work together, there's a really good chance that California goes to a 62% tax.
I read that.
Total, right? And I've heard that for a month and a half, 2 months from clients. So 62% is a lot of money. Now you come up to Oregon, we're not too far behind that, but we're far enough behind that it makes a difference. So people are coming up here. It's like, okay, it's just the craziest trend within the marketplace. But if you look farther out, which none of us really can do, and it's too hard to form a absolute opinion on, but I think that we're going to still be in a position of strength for another 18 months, simply because we have a low inventory. We still have a very good demand. I wouldn't say it's a high demand, but it's a very good demand. When inventory goes down, you get this false sense that that demand is really high. And it's simply because inventory is down. The same 3 or 4 or 5 people are looking at this new listing, and next week when the next new listing shows up, those same 3 or 4 or 5 people, if they haven't bought it, come over here. So you kind of have this little bit of a false hope of demand. If you saw inventory go up, you would see demand sort of remain constant. So I think demand is going to stay strong, but it's all based on inventory. And again, I think rates stay low. So I think if you just look forward, if the new administration is elected and comes in, they're not going to want to pull the rug out from underneath the housing market, and if the current administration stays in, they're going to want to push the economy, and housing leads that. So I just don't see anything happening for 18 months and maybe 2 years, but hopefully I'm optimistic, and I hope I'm right.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective to have. One that we all hope you're 100% right. Do you think that with COVID and the kind of propped up economy that we have to this point will have an impact, right? Of course, kind of the housing industry, all the demand coming out of California and other places. Are you concerned at all? Are you watching trends on what businesses are staying in business? Or do you feel like housing demand is so high that regardless of what happens with small businesses, whether they're able to continue forward, get stimulus money again and or not, and not able to survive, do you see that impacting the housing market in major ways? Or is it more that there's enough demand and enough money out there that's going to be kind of glossed over?
It's a sad state. And I really feel bad for those people that have, I feel so lucky to be in the industry that we're in. And I honestly, in March, if you had asked me if we were going to feel lucky this year, I would say absolutely not. So I thought we were going to be the ones that got hammered, and here it spun around and look at us. So I think it depends on what market you're selling in. So if you're somebody who is in the, under 500 market, which is screaming right now, from what I understand. We don't have a
Mhm.
lot of it in Lake Oswego, but it's absolutely tearing it up in inner southeast, northeast Portland. So I could be totally wrong here, but I think those are the people that are the essential workers. Those are the people that are, needing, that don't have jobs, that have been laid off, that have small businesses, and to a certain degree, that could bleed up into the million plus range. But um, I think that is potentially the market that could get hurt if this extends further,
Mm.
and a lot further. Then that will slowly bleed up to the upper, because the business people that are up in the business owners, managers, executives, will hurt if the people below them are hurting too. But I think it's I don't know. At some point in time, we're gonna have to pay for the party, right? And if you just continue to fund and fund and fund, Americans are going to have to pay for it somehow,
Yeah.
right? So you keep taking trillions and trillions and trillions. All right, where's that money going to come from? I mean, it's going to have to come from somewhere. So there will be a backlash. I'm not an economist, so I don't know exactly how that'll work out, but I can
Yeah.
figure it out kind of easily.
That's great. It's great feedback. And I think something that it's good perspective as far as there's certain, they've talked about a K-shaped recovery, right? Where there's some people that are going to be just fine and going to thrive. And there's others that are going to be hit pretty hard by this. So obviously something to watch out for. And I think agents even kind of staying close to that, to know the group that you serve, what's the impact upon them? Because it may look very different for people in America. It may look very different for agents, even here in the Portland area, based on what price point you're at. And obviously having gone through a crash, like a building crash, when the high-end home market crash, everybody crowded into the remodel space, right? So just because maybe that demographic doesn't affect you directly, guess what? You're going to have all kinds of new competition, because now everybody wants to be where the action's at, or has to be where the action's at. So again, it's something to be aware of. And I think all of us, the thing that is an upside, I think, to all of this, and kind of the next transition point to our conversation here, Justin, is that anytime there's turmoil in a marketplace, it creates further validation for the need of really good, smart humans running real estate transactions, right? And I think you're a guy that's gone deep on mastering the numbers. I know we've had that conversation before, that's something that you really pride yourself on, is really understanding kind of the numbers. I'd love to have you share, for those agents that are listening, even any tips or secrets of stuff that you specifically watch. And of course, the real estate market that you serve is different than, maybe some other agents, that are tuning in and listening. But are there certain numbers that you watch more closely than others? Are there certain kind of insight things that you can teach those that are listening that would really help them to be better agents? I know as I've gone out and quizzed agents, we're like, what are your biggest challenges in the marketplace? Oftentimes it's like unskilled agents, right? So if you could kind of teach people some of your secret sauce, some of the stuff that you do, that you really watch and use to educate your clients to give them a better client experience, what would that be?
Well, when I'm bored, when I have a down moment, I shouldn't say bored, when I have a down moment, instead of picking up my phone and looking at Instagram or, whatever, because I truly believe social media is the cancer of society, but here we are on Facebook. Um, what I do is I just literally try to break the RMLS. So I go into it and I try to query the system in a way that is going to force it to spit out something that is interesting to me. Everybody does a hot sheet search. Everybody does an active pending sold within this school district from 1 million to 2 million in the last 3 months, right? That's the most basic stuff that you can do as a broker. Go into that thing, try to break it. Try to take it and make it report something to you that is interesting to you so that you can share that with somebody. You can't break the system, but you can go in and absolutely try to drill down so far that it's going to give you some statistic that you say, gosh, that's a cool stat. I'm going to go share that with somebody, or just something that'll teach somebody else, even be it another broker or one of your team members or another broker in your office or your wife, just something. And so I've done that my whole career, because I came from a software background where I was training people on how to use software, and I always said you can't break it, so go in and try to break it, and then come back to me and tell me if you could break it. Well, every time somebody tried to break it, they came back and told me something that they learned, and so that I've always done that. So I'll go in and do these crazy searches that'll just take like into I'll take a neighborhood in Lake Oswego or a neighborhood in Southwest Portland, and I'll try and I'll look at what is sold with this, and this, and this. And it spits out some weird, thing. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, well then that leads to this, and that leads to this, and this, and this. So numbers come out of that, right? And trends come out of that. I love trends. I love watching trends. I love why are these trends happening? And what, and if you just sort of take the high level view of it, that's great. But everybody can take the high level view of it, right? And that's easy. That's because you're out working, you're in the marketplace, you got buyers in this category, you got sellers in this category, you get it. But if you drill down to this category, and this category, it changes. And then you start to see why this is affecting this, and then all of a sudden it opens your eyes to okay, this is a really wild trend, or this is a really wild thing. Maybe I'm watching something that is way ahead of when it's going to happen, or I'm behind it, or whatever. So I think we have a really incredible database, and Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com, they spit out the information that is this, right? There you go. That's fun.
Yeah.
The public can have that. That's why the public, when you walk in and just Joe Blow Realtor walks in and says, oh yeah, I think it's worth $995, and the Zillow estimates $998. That's weird, So you got to be educated. You have to be more than just what the public can get. And that's what a real broker does, is goes out and says, I will be the fine print.
Powerful stuff, man. Interesting. Trevor Hammond, who actually chimed in and wanted to know your golf handicap. That was one of the questions.
I saw that question come up, and I'll have a talk with Trevor later on.
So he taught me something at one point. It was one of his events, in fact, one of which you've been a part of. But the event, he taught this concept. If you go into it, there's actually a website, will I be replaced by a computer or by a robot.com. You can actually put in your profession, and it gives you with what certainly like a percentage that your profession will be replaced by a robot. I think it's probably done in kind of jest, but it's interesting nonetheless. They've actually gone in and kind of studied AI and how likely are they to develop something. And both lender and realtor are in the 90 percentile. However, this is his point, right? Is that if you look at teacher educator, it's in the single digit percentiles. And his concept was if you just do the basics, like you said, what the Joe Blow realtor does, right? The same stuff that AI can easily grab and deliver to people, then you bet, what value are you really providing for the fee that you're taking when somebody can just grab that off of, the internet anywhere. Whereas if you really, like you said, go in and try and actually break the technology, actually go in and try and find something that nobody else knows and come to your own conclusions, that's where you're really becoming an educator and helping people see things that they couldn't see before.
You and I, it's like you and I talked, and I swear you and I were sitting at a house one time, and we said, you got to go deep, right?
Yeah.
And you and I had very deep conversations in a matter of 30 minutes of just meeting each other,
mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what struck our friendship, was okay, I know this guy, I can trust this guy. He's got a great name. It means he's really good looking, so, but it's going deep. It's okay, don't be afraid to test yourself, to test your own ability, test your own insecurities, and take it further. Go further. The further you go, you're going to go deeper, and you're going to find stuff that you never thought was there. Yeah. In every facet of life, right? And then you go, okay, and that's with your clients, that's with your family, that's with everything. You can dig way down and find some cool stuff.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. In fact, both of us, I think, have we find a lot of kind of excitement and enthusiasm about what we do for a living and our respective individual careers by saying, okay, what's the status quo? What's everybody doing? And what's a deeper concern, a bigger need that I can solve? And that becomes kind of our value proposition, also becomes actually what gets us excited, right? To not just go up and wake up and be like everybody else every day. It's awesome. Talk to us real quick, Justin. I won't take too much more of your time. I know this has been super valuable. I do have some questions here that I want to kind of field. Question came in. Who are your mentors? Who do you look to when you're looking at people that you really want to learn from and follow? Who are you, again, people that you learn from?
Well, my first mentor was my mother in this business, because she brought me in as a kid. She said, I want you to be the one that comes in and works with me. And of course, that didn't mean anything to me when I was a kid. And then I joined her 20 years ago and we had a great 12 years, and she taught me a lot. Now, her mentor was Barbara Susille. And so what I was gleaning a lot of was Barbara Susille through my mother. And so I got to see Barbara last summer. She stopped by, and I was like, it was so great to see her. So it was just these two very powerful women in real estate who taught me a lot of what I'm teaching today and then what I'm living today. I also look at Mike Hasson, and I think there's a guy that has an incredible following. He's an incredible guy. He built an incredible real estate empire with loyalty. He has the most loyal agents that you've ever met because of who he is and what he stands for. And he is just a very, very good human being who built a great company. So somebody said to me once a long time ago, "You're going to be the next Mike Hasson." And my response was, there is no next Mike Hasson, right? There's one. And I don't want to be the next Mike Hasson. I want to be Justin Harnish. But thank you for the compliment, right? That I remember it, and I think about it all the time, especially when I see him. And then there's a woman that's a friend of mine. Her name's Patricia Cliff, who was Barbara Corcoran's. She was Barbara Corcoran's biggest agent in Manhattan for years and years and years. And I met her probably 10, 15 years ago. She ended up moving out here and retiring here because she loved Portland so much. And she's somebody that I bounce a lot of stuff off of and try to as much as I can. We've kind of grown apart a little bit as time has gone on, but just an incredible person in the business who comes from a mindset of New York. And she sold in Europe too, New York and European sales, just a totally different world. But to take any bit that I can get from her and apply it to my little world is excuse me, pretty interesting. So
yeah. It's interesting. You learn about why people go to Ivy League schools, right? It's for the education, but it's really for the network. And I would say, in fact, we've had this conversation before as well, is it the level of homes that you sell, right? Having sold more homes on the lake than anybody else, having sold at a higher price point than most anyone else. I think that kind of not only gives you obviously a great business from that, but it gives you an amazing network, right? The people that have brought you into their home, you've met their family, not just at a kind of superficial level, but Justin, here's what we want in a home and here's why. Like, you get deep, like as a real estate agent. I think that's one of the benefits that, that you all experience, just to get to know families at a very personal level, sitting around their dining room table oftentimes. And I'll bet that's, you've got quite a group of people to learn from, right? Not just people in real estate, but in life. Is there anyone else even outside of our industry altogether that you're like, this person was a client and now they become a friend and a mentor to me?
Yeah, several, who I don't mention their names just because it's the way they are. But yeah, they're industry captains, CEOs, guys that think, and I've sat on a couple of boards. Right now I'm the vice president of the Lake Corporation that governs the lake. And just being on that for 4 years and watching the men and women that have cycled in and out of that and who they are I've met some incredible people. And then I'm going to join the board of the country club, our country club, same thing. There's people that you meet, and doing things like that is not something you go into trying to get business. It's something you go in to learn, and you end up learning about yourself, which helps you gain business in that arena or outside that arena. So there's a lot of things that I do that help that area grow. But I think you find mentorship wherever you go. I learn a lot from you, and how old are you?
41.
See, 3 years younger than me, but every time you and I get together, I think we both learn from one another. And I think mentorship is not somebody who brings you along, but it's somebody who just sits down and gives you time and gives you some bit of something that you walk away from and you think, I was able to go deep with them. I was able to walk out of there and have some tidbit of information that'll help me throughout my day, that'll help me carry through the next week, and maybe it'll become part of my everyday, routine.
Yeah, that's cool. It's really kind of you to say. Obviously, someone who's had the kind of success that you have, to be humble enough to look at somebody that's in an industry that serves yours, right, is really big of you. And I think one of the things that I've learned from other big thinkers, high achievers, is we oftentimes see them as kind of these celebrity-like people. And I've always had this experience with you, is it like, and I'm sure you do with others that you look up to as well, is that oftentimes they're not really this like bigger than life celebrity, right, all over Instagram or whatever, right? They're oftentimes just very unassuming, very simple people. I know people that are, that I'm close to that are, have had big levels of success, or just some of the most, like, you'd walk by on the street and you'd never guess that they'd ever had any success. They don't need that, right? And I think something you've even said before is that sometimes agents spend so much time kind of displaying the work that they do as opposed to doing the actual work. I think there's one thing that that I would hope that guests would take away, is the fact that your success has come from not necessarily just talking about your success, right? It's come from actually doing the work, drilling down into the numbers as you've described, and serving your clients, oftentimes around the clock, at a high level. And I think that's where success comes from, not just, doing selfies all day long. So,
like I said, social media is the cancer of society. I mean, you can sit there all day long and tell everybody how great you are, and inflate your likes and say that I've got 18,000 followers and I've got this and I'm a public figure. You can literally create the persona that you want other people to believe you are, and put it on Instagram, and that's who you are, right? And to me, that is absolutely the worst thing that a society can do. Instead of getting to know one another, I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to make you believe that I'm 6'8", right? I think it's absolutely the worst thing that can happen. And just this constant video and this narrative of narcissism, I think people can be better. I think business people can be better. I think brokers can be better. Be better than your competition by results. Do it. Get out there and do the work. Don't tell people you're doing the work. Do the work. Then you'll get a reputation for being somebody who does the work.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing I could tell anybody. It is, I just watch some of these people and I think, how do you have the time in the day to set your phone down, walk across the pool, shoot a video, and then upload it, edit it, do all this stuff? I'm thinking, I could have sold 2 houses in between now and then. I could have served my clients now and then. I mean, it's such a self-serving thing rather than a service thing. And I say this in every interview, I say this in everything that I do. The second we forget that we are in the service industry, we're done, right? And I tell my team that at every meeting we have, I end it with that. The second you forget you're in the service industry, you're done. And I find these people that have so much time to serve themselves to be the ones that are really, there's a bad lawyer in every group. There's a bad realtor in every group. There's a bad everything. I just think it kills the reputation, because do you think your clients want to see what you're doing all day long? Or do they want to see that you're out working for them all day long? Do they care what you're eating? Do they care what you're driving? They don't care. They want you to serve them and work for them.
Your distinction there is that we're in a service-based industry. Unfortunately, some have pivoted that to be a self-service industry, right?
Exactly, because they can. It's free. I can tell you all about myself. All you got to do is follow me.
Yeah.
Don't think about that. It's a Pied Piper. It's like, all right.
Right. And I think people that have an interest, because right, I could be super offended by what you said there, because I do, a fair amount online. And I think if the intention,
it's necessary. It's necessary. I'm not going to say I don't go on Instagram. I do. Right. But I don't. It's how you post. But it is a necessary thing, and it should be used within the confines of the business. It should be used to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you do that. You do that. I'm not saying that it's not you.
Well, so I didn't feel at all incriminated by what you said there, because I think when the intention is I'm here to serve people, then like have at it, right? But if the intention is to self-serve, right, and make myself appear bigger than I really am, I think that's where people right now that maybe are like, eesh, he might be talking to me, right? And I think it's nothing to cause you to like throw in the towel and say like feel super bad about yourself. But like the concept is get better, right? And it's get better for your clients, not get better in your image, right?
Actually, but look at society right now. Look at where society is, and this is, I don't want to go into a political conversation, but look at where. Come on, man, let's do it. Look at where society is today. We are in a really self-serving community, really self-serving society. We should be working together, not for ourselves. We should be working as a whole. We should be, as a brokerage, we used to go on tour, and I get it, it's a COVID year, but tours used to be totally different. Everybody would jump in cars and you drive around and have this big tour and all this stuff. And I get, with the internet, things have changed and all that stuff. So technology has changed a lot, but it used to be a really fun industry to work within. And now a lot of times it's broker versus broker rather than let's get the deal done, right? Because egos have gotten involved, and not every transaction is easy. Not every transaction is smooth. In fact, hardly any of them are. But at the same time, if we communicate and work together, and instead of using text, maybe use your voice, things will get done. So it's sort of like we have this technology to make our lives work faster, but they also don't make it easier. We should still go back to the basics, which is, I guess, can't handshake, but
fist bump or something.
Yeah, work together.
Yeah. I think, again, you're right. The downside of social media, one of them is the fact that it actually separates us from that human to human contact. People say things online to each other that they would never say in real life. Right.
And because they can turn off and walk away.
Yeah.
And that's sad. I mean, that's a sad, oh God, it's really sad right now. And I hope that our children, which is the hardest thing, is that your kids are going to grow up with this same thing. And so we're working our hardest to avoid that. And I'll tell you, it's a challenge.
Yeah, same. Great stuff, man. We've gone even longer than expected, but the time's flown by. It's been such a pleasure to spend some time with you and extract some of your wisdom, for all agents. I feel fortunate to be kind of the messenger in essence to probably ask questions that everybody would love to know and learn from you. And I'm happy to have that opportunity to kind of be kind of the voice or the person that gets the opportunity to ask it, for other agents and other professionals that have lots to learn from you. So thank you so much for your time. I want to close with the signature question here, Justin, which is, you're a big thinker, right? You're a high achiever. You've proven that, not just 1 year, 2 years, but sustainably over time. What do you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities? What does it look like for you?
It's probably the opposite of what you think. I am very consistent with my marketing plan. I am very consistent with the strategies that I deploy to make 10 years straight happen. And I stay within my lane, and I know who I am, and I give the advice that I give. Now, if someone listens, hopefully it works out. If they don't listen and they say, hey, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, and I'm chasing every shiny object from a marketing perspective, I'm going to fail, because I'm going to go spend, way more money. I'm going to be way more distracted. I'm going to do all these things. I'm totally open to new marketing ideas every year to add to my marketing strategy, but I know who I am and I stick to it, and it works. And so I will modify that at the end of every year, within the year, and I will add and subtract, but generally I know what I can do and I know what works, and so I stick to it. And so it's and I execute it, because if I don't execute it and I've made this promise, then I'm done, right? So I have a plan, I execute it, and I'm, I know who I am.
Yeah, and it's worked. Awesome stuff, man. I think sometimes people don't want to hear the fact that great players have become that way by practicing their free throws, right? Practicing their blocking and tackling, but you've just kind of shown that to us, that it's less of the glitz and more of the just get to work, roll up your sleeves, stay focused on a plan that's been proven over time. Great stuff, man. Thank you so much for everything you've contributed here, everything you contribute to the industry, your leadership by example and both in word. I know there's so many people that look up to you and appreciate the service that you do, and I'm grateful to have you as a friend. And I want to remind everybody that's listening here today, 3 simple words that I invite you to do after every episode, and they are: go, think bigger. Thanks so much, Justin, for helping us do that today.
All right, thank you.
You bet.